Hey guys, HCGChica. I am going to do a vlog today about basically what my protocol has been this round and what I've eaten. I actually had a friend ask me about this, and I've had a couple other YouTubers recently ask me about this, like about recipes for my soup. And I'd like to share it because I've had a great round. I've lost the most fat of any round this time. I've lost 16 pounds of fat out of 20.4 pounds, which is phenomenal. So I'm just gonna get started. Basically, I'm really boring. I think previous rounds I used to change it up a little more, but you know what? I eat pretty much the same thing every day now. It works for me, and I like it. It's winter, and I like hot things, so I've just been having soups. So it's just really boring, but it works for me. So first of all, this P2. I have had no fruit, no fruits at all, no melba, no grissini. I've never had those actually, but this time no fruits as well. So that's the first thing. And I just want to throw that out there because if you are continuing to have those things, those are both like carby things. The other things I do could affect you in a different way than it's affected me. So by not having the fruit and the grissini, that's like a lot of carbs out of the diet on P2, which I feel gives me a little more wiggle room when it comes to what I've eaten. So basically, in place of my fruits, I eat every day fat-free fage yogurt. I probably have a quarter to a half cup of this 2 to 3 times a day. When I wake up in the morning, about an hour and a half into the morning, I don't measure it anymore. When I first started, I measured and I did a quarter cup. Now it's probably more like a half cup. But to be safe, you'd want to do a quarter cup. A half cup of this has about 65 calories and 4.5 grams of carbs. No fat, of course, and it has about 11.5 grams of protein. So I have that for breakfast. I also have it for a mid-afternoon snack around 2:30 or 3, and I also have it before bed around 10 or 11. It has worked for me, but again, like I said, I don't eat the fruits at all. And I put a little stevia in it, and this is the stevia from Trader Joe's. It's the organic one. It's delicious. I use this, and I also occasionally use the flavored stevias. This is the Sweet Leaf brand. You can get them on Amazon or Whole Foods. This is chocolate and grape I really like, so sometimes I'll put just a little bit, like a quarter dropper full in my yogurt as well, and to give it a flavor. So that's what I do for like my snack stuff. That's all it is, just the yogurt. No fruits, no melba. Now for my actual meals, basically I have 2 soups a day, and they consist of 100 grams of protein, either really lean beef, and you know, with beef, everyone's different. Some people tend to gain with beef or not lose, so you'll need to see if you're one of those people. My body seems to love beef, so I do that almost every day. So it's either that or shrimp or chicken. Earlier in the round, I had like some fish and stuff, but I've just been keeping it super simple most of this round. So shrimp, beef, or chicken, 100 grams. So I'm just telling you the ingredients of my soup. So that. And then for the first soup of the day, I have a half can of diced tomatoes you have to check the label, make sure there's no sugar in it. These ingredients say organic fire roasted tomatoes, organic tomato juice, sea salt, naturally derived citric acid, and calcium chloride. And I have about a half can of this, which this says there's 3 servings in it, so basically 1.5 times the nutrition facts on here would be what the results are for the nutrition facts. The other thing I have every day, and again, this is not technically POP protocol, is these shirataki noodles. I get these at the Asian market. I'm going to show them here a little closer. Do you see? They're like little noodles. And these are the same thing as Miracle Noodles. Miracle Noodles can be gotten like online or sometimes at the nicer, pricier stores like Whole Foods. These are really cheap. This is a 16-ounce bag, 1-pound bag, and it's $2. This has no calories, no carbs, well, less than 1 gram of carb per serving, and all it is soluble fiber. If you look at the ingredients, it says yam noodle on it, but that's a translation from Chinese. It's not made from yam. It's made from I think it's called the cognac root. It's like this root in Japan or China or something, and it's a soluble fiber. That's all it is. So your body cannot digest it, and it just goes out. But it's very filling, and this is what makes my soup. It's delicious. I have half a package of this each day, so one full package a day. So my first soup, all I do is I take either my beef or my chicken, my 100 grams, I cut it up, I put it in a little water, not much, just a little, and I simmer it. I add a little onion powder and salt, and it cooks in a few minutes. Then I take the meat out. Sometimes I don't, but sometimes I take the meat out and I chop it up really small, and in the meantime, I add a half can of my canned tomatoes to the broth that's left in the pan that was originally water. I add that and I heat it up. And then I chop up the meat, more fine, because it just feels like you're eating more when there's lots of little pieces. So then I add that back, and basically that's done, that part of it. Then all I do is I take half a bag of this and I dump it into a colander over the sink, and I just use my scissors, and because they're really long noodles and they're kind of stringy, so I just kind of cut off half the bag into there. And then because they're kind of like really long and stringy, sometimes it's hard to eat that way, so I just actually hold the colander over the sink with the noodles in it, and what you want to do is put really hot water and rinse them, because they do have like a fishy smell when they first come out. But if you rinse it really well with water, it doesn't have that smell anymore, and once you put it in your soup, it's totally fine. If you have a huge aversion to seafood, it's possible that you won't like it, but I love these, and like I said, once you rinse it, it's fine. And what I do is I take the scissors and I just, right in the little colander, I have one of those little small mesh ones that, just you hold it with your hand, and I just cut them up into little pieces. I just cut, and I do that for like a minute or two, and then they're just like a bunch of little pieces, like, like SpaghettiO pieces or something. So I do that, and then I dump that into my pot, and that's it. That's it. That's my soup. It actually makes a pretty large size bowl. I should have brought the bowl with me, but I didn't. But basically, it makes me a meal that's probably, it would fill this entire container and maybe even a little bigger. It's quite a lot of volume. And I also freely salt my food. Last round, I didn't have, or my first round, I had just been having food in general, and the first time I had soup, I like things fairly salty, so I added the salt, and I had a 1 pound gain the next day, so that kind of shied me away from it. And the reason I had the gain, of course, was just water retention from the excess salt. Excuse me, I need to dry throat. So I kind of shied away from soups, but you know what? I am to that point where unless you really mentally need a pick-me-up, which, sometimes that happens, and if that happens, you gotta do what you gotta do, but it's just water. It's not fat. It's not actual weight, So it's like, if you can, try not to panic about that. So this time, I literally have 2 bowls of soup every day with a lot of salt. I've been having pickles. That's the other thing. I do have a pickles for snacks. That's just been like the last week or so. But I have plenty of salt, so I know all the weight that I'm losing is not, has nothing to do with water or salt or anything, because that's not really true weight. So anyway, so that's my first soup, and I love it. It's so good. My dinner soup, that ingredients is asparagus, 100 grams of meat, usually beef, chicken, or shrimp, and a half bag of Miracle noodles or shirataki noodles. That's all it is. So what I do is I put some water in a little, a little pan, whatever, a little soup pan, and I cut up, I actually would probably eat this entire package for my dinner. I eat a lot of the asparagus, and I cut it up into rounds, and I put it in the water, and I bring it to a boil, and I let it simmer covered until it's soft, just the asparagus and the water. Once it's soft, I use my hand immersion blender, those ones you can put in stuff and it blenders stuff up. I use my hand immersion blender, and I blender it up until it's like it looks kind of like cream of asparagus soup or something, except there's no cream in it. So you blender it all up, and then, oh, I forgot to say, So with that one, the meat you would either cook separately, or you can cook it like the first time where you just cook it in a little water and then take the chicken out or the beef out, and then you add the asparagus and let it simmer, and then blend it up, and then I just add the meat back, you know, wash my noodles, cut them up, dump them in it, and that's it. And I add salt. I don't even think I add any spices to that. I might add a little onion powder, but that's it. So that's what I do. I love it. Sometimes what I do for this soup is I'll add like a tablespoon of fat-free Greek yogurt, because I'm already eating fat-free Greek yogurt on this round anyway. So, and that's really good. And again, like I said, I salt my stuff quite a bit, and I really like it. So that's what I eat, and I literally eat that every day. I've probably eaten that every day for the last 3 weeks now. And you'd think I'd be bored of it, but I don't know. It's just, you know, it's really hearty. It's winter now, or it's almost winter. It's cold, and it's just this warm bowl of soup, and it's much more filling than anything else I could eat. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it. That's it. And like I said, oh, for, you know, drinking lots of water, of course. I have tons of tea every day, and I have a big mug that I drink out of because I hate making the tea over and over, which I'm already doing anyway, but at least this takes me a little longer to drink it all. I already showed my favorite teas on another vlog. If you guys look back, I put favorite P2 teas. Maybe I'll put a link to it. So I do that. I drink my water out of a quart canning jar. It's a good idea to try to get a gallon in if you can. Lately, since I'm drinking so much tea, I haven't been necessarily drinking just plain water as much, but I still probably get 2 of these in a day at least, which is really good. That's half a gallon. And I did mention in another vlog, occasionally I'll add this stevia and a little more regular stevia to the water, and it's really, really good. And I don't really think it affects my ketones anymore, because even when I removed it, my ketones still stayed low. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. It was just had something to do with another vlog. But anyway, so I make my own little stevia water, and that's really good when you're just not feeling like drinking water. I can drink like 4 of these within a span of like, you know, 4 or 5 hours when I have the stevia in it, because it just goes down your throat really easily. So that's that, and yeah, that's it. I just wanted to say, you know, in general, I've really come to the conclusion that being POP, which is perfect on protocol, sticking to Dr. Simeon's protocol, is really the best way to lose the most fat. And I'm saying that even though what I'm doing is actually not quite POP, but the thing is, the points that I take away from it now after, you know, being through 3 rounds, monitoring my body fat, seeing how things, you know, I've experimented quite a bit. I've done I've done a few fat fasts. I've done a fast today. I've done egg days. I've done days where I didn't have both proteins and I had a cottage cheese instead. In general, he said you can eliminate anything you want, so that's something that is part of the protocol. So eliminating the fruit is not a big deal. Eliminating the melba toast, not a big deal. There's really no mention of fat-free Greek yogurt. However, cottage cheese is really similar in nature. So in a way, it really is kind of the same thing, but I love the texture of the fat-free Greek yogurt a lot better. And it feels like it's more, too, for some reason. So, yeah, so basically, you know, I'm doing that. But I think the biggest thing that I've come to the conclusion of, and, you know, it's possible I'm wrong because there's always factors that you can't always take into consideration, but the biggest thing that I've come to the conclusion of is that when Dr. Simeon says no fat on the diet, that means no fat. When I've done 2 fat fasts, and I've done a couple egg days. All of those days, I did lose weight, but my body fat went up. I would gain like 1 or 2 pounds of fat that day. The following day, it did drop back down. So, you know, it's hard to say, since HCG is so different, if, you know, it's just something with the body fat monitor and the fat and the HCG, if it's just not picking up on something, but then the next day it's showing that bigger drop in fat. But my gut feeling for me is that I gained fat, which is not what you want to do, which means the weight I lost was either only water or lean mass, which is not a good idea. My body fat percent always went up on those days. So for me, I just come to the conclusion to stick to what he said when it comes to no fat. And that's why I feel comfortable making these changes with the 0% Greek yogurt because there's no fat in it, or the noodles because it's just soluble fiber. no calories at all. So for me, those variations are acceptable, and I have lost so much fat on this round that I feel like it's worked for me. The other thing is, I think it's a good idea to try to be in ketosis on this program. I don't know a lot about ketosis, to be honest. I've done a little research, not as much as I'd like. But being in ketosis is, ketones are leftover broken down fat molecules. What's left of that comes out in your urine, which means that your body is breaking down fat. And, it doesn't always show up on the ketone strip, apparently, for some people. So just because, like, you have a ketone strip and it's not showing that you have ketones doesn't necessarily mean that you are not in ketosis. You still could be. But the one thing I wanted to say was, it when you've had a lot of carbs, it can take a little while for your body to get into ketosis. So that was the whole reason that this round I decided to load clean for one. No, I loaded low carb, which I will always do for future rounds. I didn't have hardly any carbs. And I also ate low carb for 9 days before I loaded. And I purposefully had this plan in mind, hoping that I would get into ketosis quicker. And my plan totally worked because I was in ketosis. I actually didn't test my ketones for the first VLCD day, but after the first VLCD day, the next morning, I was at 80 on the ketone strip, which means, it's high ketosis. So I was already in that after 1 day. Now, I've heard other people mention that it took them up like 9 days to get into ketosis. So I know everybody is different, but I do think that may have helped me get into ketosis quicker. Previous rounds, I didn't really see much going on with the ketone strips at all, and it was really random. So this time, I've tracked it every day, and it's been really consistent, so I know that what I'm doing has affected the change. And I feel like that correlates to my high fat loss this round. So I just want to throw that out there because loading is all about really loading on high fats. Dr. Simeon said high fat foods. So you really don't really need carbs to load. So it's just, of course you could do whatever you want. Sometimes it's fun to load on whatever you want, but I'm just saying if you want to make the most of your round and lose the most fat you can and the least lean mass, if that's really important to you, you might consider that, trying to load clean, just on the fats and proteins and not in the carbs, and even perhaps eating low carb.